Welcome to But For Real, a variety show podcast co-hosted by two therapists who also happen to be loudmouth feminists. I'm Valerie, your resident elder millennial child-free cat lady.
And I'm Emerson, your resident chronically online Gen Z brat. And on the show, we'll serve up a new episode every other week that will take you on a wild ride through the cultural zeitgeist, mental health, and beyond.
You'll definitely laugh and TBH sometimes maybe cry a little because this is a silly and serious show.
Buckle up, my friends, and let's get into today's episode.
Welcome back to the pod, guys.
Episode 4.
Oh my gosh, we're already here. I know.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled for us.
I'm so excited. We're doing the do, girl.
What have you been up to recently?
Biggest, most fun thing as of recent, I went to see Chappel Roan.
Oh, yeah.
With my bestie and some of her work friends and acquaintances for me and friends for me, which is cool.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? She was amazing. I'm still running on that high. So I'm just living Chappel.
And didn't you say the parking was you were stuck for 3 hours?
Girl. I got home at 3 a.m. Miss Girl left the stage at 11. I got home at 3. Okay, and we did stop at Taco Bell. Okay,
well,
of course, because we were starved. But no, if you ever go to First Bank Amphitheater in Franklin, Tennessee, please just pay the whatever price.
For premium.
For premium, girl.
Oh my God.
I was sat in that, just sitting in traffic anyways, you're kidding.
That's my worst nightmare. Ugh. I learned the last time that I went to... Because I used to be I think any Nashville natives would be oh yeah, the library parking garage downtown. Mm-hmm. No, not anymore.
Yeah.
She's been ruined because we sat there stuck in a parking garage, which is a nightmare scenario. What happens if it catches fire? Right. I don't know. We just run and we leave the cars, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just stuck, not moving for an hour and a half after whatever. I can't remember the concert because that was the memorable piece.
Yeah. No, parking is
but how
my
fun.
nightmare. What about you?
I just got back from 9 days in Texas, which is an eternity to be gone from home. So super glad to be back, but it was a lovely blend, seeing family, friends, celebrating the life of my friend Kristen, and just getting together with our girl group from growing up. So it was a lot of joy, some tears, but overall a really good trip. And I was trying to go to my favorite restaurant. I'm what even day? Yesterday in Austin. And I did not realize that ACL was happening because I was in San Antonio most of the weekend.
You're right.
So I'm trying to get there, and this restaurant is literally right next to Zilker Park where the festival happens. And I think Chappel might have been yesterday.
You should have seen the crowd.
There's 2 weekends. So
yes.
It's this past weekend and next weekend. And I don't know which one for sure, but I think it might have been yesterday while I'm trying to go to my little vegan restaurant. And they're sorry, the city took over the parking lot. We don't own any parking. So I was I can't even go to my place. So, but yes, it was a great trip.
Now it's time for our first segment, Tea and Crumpets, where we tell you what we can't stop talking about this week.
I will start by telling you, I was telling you about this the other day in Breakfast Club, which is the name of our team meeting. But The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. So it's a book, came out in 2019, set in rural Kentucky during the Great Depression.
Depression.
Right. And it's based on this WPA program that FDR and Miss Eleanor Roosevelt conceived of, where they were putting women on horseback to deliver books, library books, to rural people.
Yeah.
And so it provided these women jobs and purpose, but it also got books and education information to these families in rural areas who otherwise would never have had access to something like that.
Love.
So very cool. And it was just so well written. I struggle to get into fiction.
Sure.
So it's got to really grab me. And I highly recommend listening to this one on audiobook because there's one of the main characters has a British accent, and then there's all the great Kentucky accents.
Sure.
So excelente.
Ooh, I'm an audiobook queen. That has helped me so much with burnout and wanting to read, but like having so much like fatigue for whatever reason of like cracking open a paperback. It makes me sad, like as a former bookworm, but I love like a riveting or just like interesting audiobook, like something with some meat.
Yes.
I feel like all mine are like, I'm always watching TV. Like, girl, get off the couch!
I have another show for next time, too.
Okay. So, of course, just like everybody on TikTok, mine is Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story on Netflix. Wow. So much hot take is going on with just like the discourse in general. I've been enjoying, also, if you know, like the one Nicholas Chavez TikTok, like there's like
it's his actual TikTok.
Well, like some videos of his from like 2020 where he's like kind of being a little bit cringe is going around, and people are like, because he's like kind of the flavor of the month right now.
Okay, I literally, by the way, know nothing about them. Like, are they serial killers? Are they?
The Menendez brothers.
I literally don't know.
So they committed parricide where they killed both their parents. Oh yeah. So like I'm never really like a huge true crimer-y story because like, hey, this
I want to sleep at night.
No, I want to sleep and I already don't. So I'm already scared. But I've always had such fascination with this story because they endured a ton of physical, emotional, sexual, like really, really bad sexual abuse from their mom and dad.
Wow.
And so they killed both their parents. Eek. They're like in their 50s, and so this story has kind of been its like retelling. Like Ryan Murphy notoriously is one of the creators of it, but I don't know, people are like this series did them really dirty. It made them look like sociopaths, and like there's definitely some parts where I'm like, oh yeah, like this like seems bad for them. But just the retelling of it is really interesting, and the main character Cooper Coke, I'm not sure how to say his last name, who plays Erik Menendez. I just watched like a brief interview, and he talked about going and getting to meet Erik Menendez, and was like, I'm like,
he's in prison. I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They are in prison for life with no possibility of parole. Like they were up for the death penalty, girl. Like it was a lot. So he got to go meet him and like told him he believed him, and like I just think the two of them have done such an excellent job of like playing such a difficult role. It's the same thing of how I felt for Evan Peters when he played Jeffrey Dahmer.
Ooh, which I also haven't seen.
Really good, graphic. I can't binge shows like this. Like I have to watch them over time.
Girl, I can't even binge The Bear because I'm so stressed.
No, because why are all these Chicagoans yelling? Like I'm triggered. Like I'm like, wait, I'm activated.
Get
like
me out of this restaurant.
No, I'm like, please calm down. So yeah, highly recommend. Take it with a pinch of salt, you know, of course, and do your own research. But I've enjoyed the retelling. So yeah,
love it.
Now it's time for Step Into My Office, where you get advice from your favorite professionally qualified, personally peculiar therapist.
Okay, we're going to hop into Step Into My Office, where you get to inquire and get some little tidbit advice from us quirky girlies.
Yeah, so write in.
Yes.
Let us know what you want advice
Let us know. Step into this office. Okay. Dear Emerson and Val, my sister cut off communication with my parents about a year ago. I know her relationship with them has always been complicated, but it honestly seemed a little dramatic to me, and they are really hurt by it. I want to be able to maintain relationships with all of them, but it seems like she's mad that I'm still close with them. How do I navigate this mess? Sincerely, the dude stuck in the kind of triangle that's not even remotely hot.
Yeah,
Ooh.
That sucks. I've heard different versions of this so many times.
Same.
Right? And it's like, of course, you know, and we'll always give the caveat of like, we don't have details.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And that's what's so hard, I think, about these situations is it's not like, oh, well, unless you were hit, unless you were Menendez,
right?
Then
literally,
you have no, like, your thing is not big enough to warrant cutting off.
Yeah.
And yet, like, I've been on both sides of that spectrum with people, and so I know obviously the damage that can happen on both sides. It's hard.
Yeah, I have large and immediate family estrangements. So when I read this, I was like, because I've been there.
Right.
And also like, yeah, I've been a part of the like no contact process for like a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think what I would like mostly want to say to this listener. The person that submitted is just like, it's going to be messy, right? Like there is, I think a lot of times when we see this also clinically, like somebody's looking for like a one-way answer. And so it's definitely, even when I've kind of talked through going no contact with people that have had like toxic family members, parents, grandparents, stuff like that, it's knowing that like the no contact component doesn't have to be forever. I think that's kind of what gets, like, that's what people get caught up in a lot, is the like permanence of the decision, when you can take things like bit by bit, year by year. And if it ends up being a permanent situation, that's what it is. And I think trying to take the permanence out of these like really hefty decisions can actually let the nuance play a little bit more. So, you know, this person is saying, you know, I kind of feel like my sister was a little bit dramatic. You know, have you inquired with your sister about like what made her do this? You know, are we talking about the boundaries of what it means for you to still be in relationship with these people and to still be in relationship with her? And that it can be both. For some, and some it can't be for both, which is really hard.
Right. Yeah. And again, I feel like, unfortunately, like the devil is in the details.
For sure.
And so it's like, okay, I can imagine a situation where the harm that was done is just so significant that it's like, listen, for you to continue to have a relationship with them, like, it feels like a serious betrayal given what you know. Like, absolutely have seen those situations.
Sure.
But I've also seen situations where it's like, well, you know, you're just, you maybe had a painful experience and that's valid, but my relationship is different. And like, can we be adult enough to just have different relationships here and not have to see this fully the same way?
Sure. Being able to both and it a little, right? And I think if there really is, I mean, they said, like, my parents are really hurt by it. I wonder if there's opportunity for, like, entire familial repair here. Like, what is it like if we go to therapy individually and then try to do it as a family? Like, is that a possibility? For some, that recommendation or encouragement that I give to some clients, they're, like, clutching their pearls. You're like, girl, you want me to bring my whole crazy ass family into therapy? And I'm like, sure, but I've also seen it happen. I've seen it be done.
Absolutely. And even very much so, and sometimes perhaps more successfully, as an adult, right? Like, it's great if the family is aware and willing to get help, and maybe when they're still kids.
Sure.
But I think sometimes when you're still a kid, like, you're not on the other side of it enough, and you don't have the insight enough that you will when you're older. So it's like, even if you tried family therapy as a kid and it didn't feel helpful, like, maybe it's worth another shot, you know, unless again, it's like, if the harm was just so severe that it's like, listen, it is just unhealthy for me to connect with them, like, fine, it's your choice, right?
Yeah.
Totally that's such a tough one. So listener, we just wish you the best and hope that, you know, you're able to honor yourself and not get like too pulled into the people pleasing on either side, right?
Heard.
Okay.
Welcome to The Lore, where we share anonymous listener-submitted stories about literally anything. The more cringe or jaw-dropping, the better. To submit your story for a future episode, find Deeps on the gram at butforrealpod or at GaiaCenter.co/podcast.
So this is another listener submitted. Normally, both of those segments are anonymous, but occasionally we may have someone who's like, hey, I would love to share this, and like, here's where people can find me. So our submission today comes from Shea Wingate, and she does have a little, like an Instagram online presence thing, so I'll share her info at the end. But here is what Shea submitted for The Lore. Hi, lovely ladies of But For Real. My name is Shea Wingate, better known on the internet as the Grief Girlie, which BT Dub, I meant to say at the top too, that we just recorded our last episode on grief, and I was like, she just didn't know about us at that time. So I was like, come on in, bring in a story. Okay, so after wrestling with the grief monster, I took my training as a therapist and lived grief experiences to social media and crowned myself the Grief Girlie. I started this community on IG because I really wanted to normalize grief, the good, the bad, and the real ugly side of grief. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind and tell you my grief story. When I was in my 20s, I lost my dad, older sister Karen, and mom within 13 months. Ugh. Yeah, it's just like heart drops into stomach, right? I felt like grief slapped me in the face, punched me in the gut, and then kicked me to the ground. No kidding. Honestly, there were some days when I couldn't even get out of bed. My life went from happy and safe to having the rug pulled out from under me. It felt like none of my 20-something-year-old friends could understand what I was going through or knew what to say. I felt like a stank of grief and repelled people better than deep woods off. Oh, girl. I felt like I was in a different university from my peers and I was really struggling, or different universe, and I was really struggling. Grief was and is so hard. I felt super sad and really angry, but since I was a therapist, I thought I had to have it all together and grieve in the 5 neat little stages, which, of course, if you listen to last week's episode, you heard Calloway tell you to burn them. Since I had no idea how to do that, I basically did my best to avoid my grief. This was a recipe for disaster. Entered the grief monster. After months of trying to stuff my grief down because I was honestly so scared of what would happen, something even worse happened. My grief stopped waiting for me to let it in, and so it kicked down the door, resulting in a long, snotty scream-cry session. I was exhausted. The grief monster whipped me around so hard, I knew I didn't want to do that again. So I went right back to stuffing my grief away. Just put it in a box. Maybe you need like stronger duct tape, right? This was the beginning of the monster mode cycle. I couldn't see a way out of it. These grief fits were exhausting and embarrassing. Think ugly crying mixed with breaking a freshly drunk beer bottle by throwing it in the trash can as hard as possible. I was in my hot grief mess era. I still cringe, wondering if neighbors saw me. Even though the grief fits were messy, I did feel better after releasing the tension on my grief pressure cooker. But like I said, it was chaotic. After months of stuffing and then blowing up, my partner suggested I see a therapist. I think the final straw for him was watching me throw away a dog toy for no apparent reason. A million apologies forever and ever to my sweet pup, June. I realized that this cycle wasn't just bad for me, it was terrible for my relationships. How much longer could my boyfriend and dog witness me lose my shit?
Yeah.
Grief therapy helped me break this cycle, but something more. Therapy helped me realize that my grief was anger. I never thought of grief as anger. I thought grieving meant crying. But the truth was I was pissed. Pissed that my dad died in front of me and I couldn't help him. Pissed that my sister died alone and I couldn't be there to hold her hand. And pissed that my mom had cancer and chemotherapy and that hurt her more than it helped her. I needed to rage, but I needed to do it safely and, more importantly, give myself permission to do so because nice girls from the South don't slam doors on purpose, right? Wrong. I learned there is no right way to grieve. I had so many grief misconceptions that were tripping me up. I had to throw out as hard as I could in the trash can this nice girl guide to grief that I had unconsciously digested. I knew I couldn't be the only one carrying around grief myths and a grief pressure cooker waiting to explode. After tons of help and love from truly amazing people, I befriended my grief monster and the grief girly was born. I want to share my story so others feel less alone when the grief monster strikes. Years ago, I couldn't imagine telling anyone I threw away a dog toy in a grief fit, but I'll gladly tell it now if it helps a fellow griever out there. How people can find me, I'm very active on IG at The Grief Girly, that's GIRLIE, or check out my free online membership, The Grief Club, on my website, thegriefgirly.com. Oh, thank you, Shea.
Wow.
Yeah.
First off, just like, what a story.
Right.
Right. And just, I really love the like befriending of the grief monster. I think that like befriending grief has allowed me and clients and just like people in my personal life to like be able to like feel like they can even begin grieving, right? Because it feels like this really huge, gnarly thing, because it is in many a way. But just hearing just like really powerful story of like what you did, what you were able to do with, I'm sure, such a punch to the gut and just like these missing holes, your immediate family, like the meaning that has to be made from something so tragic. Yeah, wow, really amazing person story, Shea.
And I think, like all of us, to remember that, you know, we may hear stories that we haven't yet experienced. Yeah. But it's like we all we all just have to find a way through.
Yeah.
Right? And to realize that, like, shoving it down will work, but only for so long.
Yeah.
Right?
Pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Go check out Shea. She sounds really amazing.
Okay.
And now it's time for the DSM. In our DSM, all varieties of dysfunction, spiraling, and meltdowns are welcome. In this segment, we break down complicated concepts and common misconceptions about mental health, well-being, and tell you what we really think.
Our topic, theme-ish today, is all about AI and mental health. The irony, ChatGPT, ChatGPT, putting together the outline today. So is she trying to steal this podcast?
She might. I mean, we could just say, Dear Greta Penelope Thibodeau, which is what I call ChatGPT, please write our episode on this topic and listen to these That'll be the thing is, like, I guess we could feed her the transcripts and she'd be like, okay, I've got it. I know how to be Emerson. I know how to Val.
She's
like,
studied us,
We will be obsolete.
Yes.
Which is kind of like one of the things we're going to talk about is, you know, will our jobs be obsolete? Because you would think that, like, and I think part of what's so interesting about looking at that in mental health care is the relationship, the felt sense of just sitting with your therapist, and even if it's virtual, like in person, great, but even virtually sitting with and your therapist, like, holding space for you, you would think that is such a uniquely human thing to do. So can even that be replaced by AI?
Tis the question.
Tis the question of the hour. So first little area that we want to get into with this is just talking a little bit about what are the various sort of AI-powered mental health tools. There are chatbots, there are apps, there are even, like, virtual therapy platforms. Some of them are just an app, some of them are sort of a hybrid combo. There's apps for tracking your mood, your mental health, your behaviors, guided mindfulness, of course. So all kinds of things. There's a few, well, I'll get into the specific apps later, but, you know, these apps have been programmed essentially to know how, like, cognitive behavior therapy works, to know how to help you reframe your thoughts, right? To get into these interactions with you. And they are, unlike us, available 24/7, right? They don't need to sleep. They don't need to eat.
They ain't got no outpatient hours, girl.
No, they can offer that immediate support.
Yeah.
There's also mental health assessments. So the algorithms are being trained to analyze patterns in people's speech, their behavior, their physiological data, to assess things that, like, us just with our eyeballs and ears might be not picking up, right? So that those changes in behavior or mood could potentially even be detected sooner. Yikes. And then, of course, developing personalized treatment plans from that. So AI is being explored for creating tailored treatment plans based on, you know, what is this person's chart and history and how are they presenting. So very interesting, all of the different sort of applications of it in mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of like the first start, right? Just like what's this app? You know, I feel like we're an app-friendly generation now. We're like, oh yeah, we'll get an app for this or get an app for that. And I think that is probably something that's going to be, if it's not already taking off, the most readily accessible thing for people when it comes to, like, this combination of AI and mental health. So touching on a little bit of, like, telehealth with AI integration. So some of you may see a therapist already virtually, and being able to explore the usage of AI alongside having live therapists. So imagine you're sitting in your virtual therapy and there's a little integration of AI picking up on those responses, emotions, things happening, going on live. It makes me think of, is it the Love Labs?
Oh,
portion,
yeah, right.
You know, where they're scanning for, like, physiological flooding.
Yeah,
and
so the
Gottman
Gottman Institute already uses stuff like this.
Yes, and we use, Valerie and I, and here at Gaia we use a lot of Gottman, but I don't think we've used that part.
You haven't used the Love Lab AI, which, like, it can basically, a couple can film themselves, like, having a discussion, like a conflict discussion, and it will pick up, like, on all of the sort of subtle cues of body language. It can even pick up like your heart rate just by watching the video. It can get your heart rate. So like all of these data points that it's gathering like, are you furrowing your brow? Oop, there's contempt. Are you rolling your eyes? Like,
criticism,
crazy.
defensiveness, stonewalling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So picking up on those subtle kind of cues that as a therapist you may not be missing because you're trying to attune in many other way. And then application of like a hybrid model. So AI-driven insights with some human intervention. So this example we threw down would be clients might be interacting with an AI chatbot in between sessions with their therapist, tracking their mood, engaging in therapeutic exercises. So maybe you have an activating event, you talk to a little chatbot and they give you box breathing or something to help you calm down. And that's all being recorded so that your therapist is able to look at that and kind of check on, what's going on with you between sessions, which I always think is so interesting. You see someone weekly or bi-weekly for 50 minutes for us. And, I always say, like, we only get this amount of time together. The rest of your life is lived outside of this room, and it's kind of in that personal responsibility of what skills and tools am I taking from therapy and applying to my life. So this kind of in-between model piece is really interesting to me for a magnitude of reasons.
And I think like there's uses, and there's this company Blueprint that I think is bringing some of it in on the clinician side of like, oh, I'm in session, like, oh, here, have you thought about doing this? It sounds like your client could benefit from this. And like, that seems, I think, exciting, but also scary because it's like, okay, is it just trying to replace, like, I don't actually need to be a trained professional because I can just show up and sort of like facilitate what the software is telling me that it thinks I should do.
I'm like, we went to school for a long time, folks.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And then machine learning, but for mental health research. So just the revolutionizing mental health research. So having lots of data, right? So this goes into your EHR, which is electronic health records, social media data, even just genetic information, which is spooky ooky. Just being able to learn and identify trends, correlations, things that could lead to new treatment plans, stuff that we don't know about yet, or just better predictions of mental health issues, which is very interesting, especially from like the genetic component. So algorithms are just looking at being trained on analyzing behavior online, scrolling in that doom scroll. I can already imagine you're in a doom scroll and there's
it pops up. Are you okay, girl?
No, literally. And even when I get that, like, hey, she's like this like beautiful girl on TikTok, and she's like, hey, have you been scrolling for a while? And I'm like, yeah. And I just like swipe her away. But I'm like, ooh, swiping her away. Are they like, these people all swiped away? They're like in their doom scroll pile. Like what are they picking up on in terms of trends, hour of day, how you're feeling before you pick up and throw yourself into social media, being able to spot early signs of like depression, suicidality. I think this is so interesting, especially for how parents, modern parents, are talking about having their kids use social media, and what it means to exist online when your brain is not cooked yet.
And it's just like, of course, there's value in imagining how, if we could, have some early detection based on that online behavior, like, oh gosh, wouldn't we want that? Sure. And at the same time, it's sort of giving like whatever like sci-fi story it is where it's like, oh, well, we can already tell you're going to commit a horrible crime. Right. You're going to commit a violent crime. And so even though you haven't, like, we need to protect society from you. So we're just going to preemptively lock you up. Like, in theory, it sounds good. Like, we can save lives. But, like, in practice, it's very slippery slope. Yeah. Right? Which takes us to, like, of course, the big thing with all of this, the ethical considerations. Because there's so many potential incredible things we can imagine coming out of all of this, and yet at what cost? And even if it's going to happen and we can't stop it from happening, like, what are the things that we need to be building in from now, from like 5 years ago, so that we're doing this in the most ethical way possible? So, of course, data privacy. I mean, and I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh God, I'm so ignorant. Because I'm just one of those people that's like, I have nothing to hide. I don't care if they... And I'm like, okay, girl, true, but also, like, it's the principle of,
you know. I'm like, I'll accept all cookies.
I know.
I've got 37 bajillion cookies, actually.
Right. Yeah, but even, like, these journaling apps, which I'll share about one of them that I'm using in a minute, I'm like, it's like, your data is secure. And I'm like, oh, sure. I'm sure it is, right? But, like, am I reading the fine print? No,
right.
I'm not. So data privacy, of course, when we're talking sensitive mental health data, we're talking things that, you know, are fine to discuss in confidentiality with your human therapist.
For sure.
And BT Dub, if your human therapist is worth their salt, they are being very intentional about how they document in your chart. We give the minimum that need to know, right? Because why else would we need to document? Like, we want to try to keep your information as private as we can. These apps aren't doing that. They're literally just taking it all in, right? Into their little into my files.
And I think even just the, you know, with data and just in general for us, like, we are bound by the ACA Code of Ethics, like, as, well, for me as a LPC, you know, and just each state having their own, like, ethical considerations of what it means to, like, be in practice. We have to go to school. We have to take tests. We have to learn about that. We have to continue practicing it. We have to have supervision around ethics. And so, do robots do that?
Right.
No.
Exactly. And then there's the sort of human touch around how accurate, right? Like, even if it's like, oh, based on all these things, like, here's the diagnosis I would give, but where is the sort of clinical intuition nuance that gets lost potentially when we're just reporting certain types of data? So, and of course, just like general autonomy, the relational qualities that are arguably essential to therapy being effective.
For sure. I think we have to devil's avocado, right? And give some advantages. Devil's avocado, I totally stole that from Sounds Like a Cult. They're like one of my favorite.
That's great.
We love them.
I love it.
So what are the advantages? What's the pluses? Obviously accessibility, right? It is not lost on us just that it be costing money, right? To go to therapy, to do the work. There's a ton of privileges that come with being able to do that. Financial constraints, also stigma. There's maybe not that accessibility of someone in your life being able to go to therapy, feel safe, letting people know that they're going to therapy. There could be more inconspicuous and private ways of doing it on your phone, in your home, in your room, with the utilization of AI. I'm thinking rural Tennessee, places that are just rural that have one counselor in their midst, you know, and the ethical considerations that go around that as well. So being able to have access, cost effectiveness, of course, that goes into it. Most of these AI components are very low cost or free. It's free to use ChatGPT. It's free to use certain apps that are going to be prompting you with feedback. There's not a lot of times where you could be receiving therapeutic mental health care that's free. So that's a huge thing to consider. And then scalability, right? So being able to have these AI components reaching large populations. One little chatbot can reach thousands and thousands of people. We can't be reaching thousands and thousands of people within our day or week. We could maybe over an entire lifetime of being a therapist, but in the day-to-day, week-to-week, there could be a really huge touch point for a lot of people that don't have the kind of access of showing up to a private practice weekly, monthly, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some examples of some of the tools that are out there integrating AI and mental health. I'm obsessed with the name of the first one, Wobot.
Period. Wobot.
WOE. Also, they have like a female CEO. She's part of the 60 Minutes segment that we'll link in the show notes that is AI-powered mental health chatbots developed as a therapy support tool. So she was interviewed in that. I was annoyed, though. So this chatbot, I think, used to be open to whoever.
Okay.
And now it's still free, but you can only access it via an employer benefit plan or access from a healthcare professional, which, like, I guess some argument maybe could be made around, like, oh, we want to make sure that you're vetted, but, like,
but for what?
It feels just gatekeepy to me because it's like, you're a chatbot.
No,
like,
literally.
So
Literally, girl.
So yeah, I just don't like that. It feels very like we're just wanting to withhold and then create expensive financial agreements with these employers and whatever.
Kind of don't love.
Also, if you have played around with any of these, feel free to interrupt me as we go. Wyza was one that I did play with earlier today, just a little bit. So it's WYSA, and that is, it just does mood tracking, journaling, access to mental health professionals. And what I like about this one, and I think several of them have this, is that sort of hybrid option of like, also, would you like to, and depending on what type of thing it is, it's like, would you like to add a coach, right? Because then coaches are not beholden to like state-based licensures. They're not even pretending to deliver like clinical mental health care. They're just like, hey, I'm here to offer some support, some human support. And I was looking at the Wyza thing where it's like, do you want to upgrade? Do you want to add a coach? And it was something like for as little as $12 a session, because it's this much per quarter and you get to meet with your coach, like over chat this much and like over sessions this many times. So it's like very cost effective, going back to that, right? Compared to a lot of therapy, but also like how comparable is it? Let's be honest. Right. But that's Wyza. There's another X2AI that provides some like psychoeducation and emotional support. Ginger is apparently one that's been around for a while.
This is the one I downloaded and started. Did you play with it? Just like a tiny bit. It was like right.
Is it still called Ginger? Because I learned that Headspace bought it and it's now Headspace Care.
It was like in parentheses in the App Store. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so interesting. And they also offer that blend of having access to a coach.
Yeah. I'm gonna continue playing around with that one. Yeah. See what it's like.
And then I will say, I know there's some of the couples apps, Flame, which is spelled like flame, but with two E.
I know, I was M's. Like flame.
I know. No, I'm like literally in the app, I'm like, how do you pronounce? And it's like, it's just pronounced flame.
You were like, okay.
But we spelled it with two M's for whatever reason. It's actually fun. Chris and I have used one called Lasting, and then we've been using Flame for a little while. It's like, fun little daily question, things like that. And then this one I had noticed like a couple months ago when we started using the app, before we were even talking about this, it has a little AI section. And I was like, oh, what am I supposed to ask it?
Sure.
But it's actually kind of cool. I haven't used it a ton. I was playing more with it today, and it's neat because you can ask it questions. So like if I'm like pissed off at my husband, I can be like, oh, Chris really frustrated me. He did this stupid thing. And he doesn't see any of that. So it's just, the app is just going to help me handle my shit. And like, it's going to coach me through it. And it's actually like, its phrasing and everything is like so personable. I'm like, oh, I feel so supported. Thank you.
No, because like, let me stop texting my besties talking shit.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Just text Flame AI and be like, girl, I'm really going through it now.
No, like, this man about pissed me off. And she's like, heard, girl.
Yes.
She's like, take a breather.
The first time I tried using it, I was just playing with it because I was like, I don't know, does he see this?
Sure.
And so I like asked it something about like, what do I do if my partner smells? I was like, which, is a valid concern potentially for some people, but I was just being snotty.
Sure.
And it was like, well, here are some ways that you could bring it up. Like, I know this is challenging. And I was like, LOL, thanks. I was just kidding. Or no, I think I like deleted that because I was like, don't learn from that. That was fake.
Sure.
But then later I was like checking in with it, asking like, hey, do you see or does Chris see what I put in here? Or is it just between you and me? Yeah. And it was like, it's just between you and me. So do you want to talk about that smell, girl? And I was like, no, I was kidding. It was like, okay, got it. But I'm here if you ever have an issue. I was like, seriously, like, thank you, I guess.
Thanks, girl.
So I was asking her earlier today,
She's a girl. I know it.
I just can't call anything it. A car.
Me either.
I don't care. But I was
people
asking,
call babies it.
I was asking Flame AI about like date night ideas and like, hey, I was out of town and like we need to reconnect.
Sure.
And so it's like it gave some good ideas.
Okay.
And then the last little category is like the AI journaling apps. There are a bunch out there now.
Yeah.
Rosebud, Mindserah, Stoic, Untold, Layers. Some of them are really cool because you can either type like computer or phone. Or you can just voice message and you can be like, hey, I'm going to brain dump about my day. And then it will be like, hey, sounds like that was really hard. Like, tell me more about that. Or how did you feel when this happened? And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So if you don't really have like a, bestie that you can just chat with and you just like need to vent something and they're not available or whatever, like, honestly, I'm really enjoying Rosebud. That's the one that I decided to keep playing with over the past like week or so. So I definitely recommend it.
That's so interesting. I've been using for mood tracking How We Feel.
Okay.
It's like a client recommended it to me actually like months ago, and now I've been recommending it to everyone. I really enjoy it. I don't know if there's like necessarily like AI components, but you can do like a quick like little journaling blurb in there if you want to. So I'm kind of interested in like the giving it my stream of consciousness and being like, girl,
what are you picking up?
No,
what themes are you seeing?
Are you noticing? And I even saw, I think it was a TikTok of this girl. She was, I don't know if it was a specific app like this. It might have been. I might have to go back and find it. But she screenshotted texts from like this, like her situationship, and she was like, "Help! Is there romantic nuances in this?" And AI was like, "So I think like and I just thought that was funny.
That's hilarious. Like, what do you think about my situationship?
Seriously.
And AI's like, well, based on the data you've provided.
No, she's like, Alexa, play Casual by Chappel.
Oh my God, I love it. The other thing too that's like kind of, I feel like coming and sort of already here in ways. So there's an app called Growth Day that I use that's this guy, Brendan Burchard, who's a high performance coach. And they release like this Brendan AI. So I can go on there and be like, hey, Brendan, like, here's what's going on. I was like, I'm struggling with motivation and like just feeling kind of blah. Yeah. And like in his voice, it will like respond to me and be like, hey, here's what I would recommend. And it's just like kind of wild. Wow. So I think there are already companies that are working on like, because, I mean, I sent you guys this. I created a version of my voice on the Speechify app. Yeah. And so it's so easy to create an AI version of your voice. I only had to read like 2 sentences into the app, which is like a little frightening, also cool. And it sounds like a pretty close approximation. So it's not that hard to like feed it a bunch of like, here's about my personality. Sure. Here's my therapeutic approach. Here's my voice. And for our clients potentially to be like, hey, do you want to check in with Emerson AI between your sessions? Not us just
slack-jawed. Gagged. Because I think, and this is so funny, like I say this to a couple of clients, like, like if they're working on confidence or like if we're trying to get those communication skills down pat or if we're trying to remind ourselves of things. I always joke, I say like, when you're like struggling to get things through your own voice first, I'll say like, just like think of me.
Yeah, hear my voice, right?
Yeah, like hear me saying it and then help that channel. And so some I say like you have like a little Emerson on your shoulder. That's a little Emerson in your phone.
In your phone. For sure. Right?
And she's just, like, hang on! Right. Like me being loud and fucking annoying.
It's just, if she tells you something foolish, like, I'm sorry. I had nothing to do with it.
No, like, I was not a part of her tomfoolery, okay? We're separate beings.
Oh, my God. So we put a few links in the show notes if you want to check out some more. I referred to that 60 Minutes story. That's like, it is 13 of the 60 Minutes. From an episode they did in April on this topic.
Yeah.
There's a guy, Jacob Geller, who a friend shared this video with me 2 years ago, and he did it. So he's super renowned for his video game essays. So he's a gamer, and he's just like, these essays that he does on YouTube are just phenomenal, like so nuanced, so in-depth, so much research, like beautiful. And so this particular one was about fixing my brain with automated therapy. Okay. So even 2 years ago, all of the things that were available and a lot of really interesting historical background that he gets into. It's like 50 minutes long, but it is very much worth the watch, in my opinion. Cool. And then another big YouTube gamer guy who is a psychiatrist, he is known as Healthy Gamer GG on YouTube, and he has a little like 10-minute video on can AI replace therapists. And I'll just say his answer is interesting. I think I agree a lot, and also it's like a little frightening, right?
Yeah. Healthy Gamer GG, he's cool.
Yeah,
I've seen his stuff. Cool. So future directions, like where are we going with all this stuff, right? I think the future of AI is in the realm of mental health care is going to look like it's integration, right? Being able to integrate services, combining AI with human intervention, digital tools. One of the ones we threw down were like monitoring your stress levels or your sleep patterns. I think that kind of technology in general with like smart rings and smartwatches, it's already here. There's just extra implementation and integration to be done. And yeah, just the continued assistance with therapists in real time by analyzing your data, looking for blind spots, helping with clinical decision support, treatment planning, just interventions, in-session interventions, modalities, like how it can flag all of these things. Yeah, looking for any kind of concerning patterns or things that you may be missing or not attuning with patients, clients. But for real. AI is here to stay. She's here, both in mental health and lots of other industries, personal lives, in your homes, if you have Google devices, all of the things, right? Give me my shopping list. So much of how we talk about everything, I think discernment, right? Just being able to proceed with caution, doing your research, knowing what is and is not feasible for you or feels safe for you to engage with, being able to have some discernment. Maybe it is really fun for me to have this easily accessible journaling app and some prompts and some help with emotional regulation. Maybe I don't want to be spilling my guts with certain things that could be compromising to myself or others. Just keeping the nuance, keeping a pinch of salt, if you will.
So you're saying that when I journal about you in my Rosebud app and I use your first and last name, Emerson,
and my social security
of Clarksville, Tennessee.
Her social security number is blank. I just get doxxed. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And now, our musical segment. Now that's what I call Ooookay, where Emerson and I each share a song with each other each week as representatives of our respective generations. We tell you a little bit about the song or artist, and then we press pause, we share the song with each other, and then we come back for our live reactions. And we're capturing it all on a Spotify playlist linked in the show notes for you.
So I mentioned last episode, I chose a Dawes song, and I mentioned that the front man, or one of the brothers, has been married to Mandy Moore, and I was like, Mandy is coming to the playlist.
For sure.
I remember being like, 13 and singing, oh, oh, yeah, 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 Candy in my karaoke.
Thank you.
Now, I did not, Candy is an acquired taste, we'll say.
Sure.
It is very sugary pop, as one might imagine.
Love.
I mean, she probably wasn't much over, I think we're about the same age, so she was probably like a wee teen as she recorded that song. So I chose a different song. And this is one of those songs, this is called Only Hope, where the cover is more famous than the original song. So she actually covered this. It's a song by Switchfoot that they wrote in 1999. She covered it in 2002 for the film A Walk to Remember, which is like a very much teen love flick of the time, Nicholas Sparks' book, and stars her and Shane West. This was one of her first, if not her first, acting role. And it's legit. Like, as I was kind of doing the digging for the song today, I was like, I need to rewatch this movie. Yeah. I just need a little bit of like Nicholas Sparks teen romance in my heart right now. So we're going to go listen to the song. What do we think?
Wait, cute.
I know, right?
So, like, obviously I've never watched this movie because I'm 12 years old. I'm an uncultured swine.
At the time it came out, you were too, so.
I was a wee baby. I was the baby. No, cute. I always think of Mandy Moore. Like, I think of Mandy Moore from, like, Rapunzel and
Tangled,
Princess Diaries, of course. She's like,
wait, that's Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, but she's
Is
like,
she in it?
She's like the bitchy mean girl.
Am I Princess Diaries? Am I correct that that's Anne Hathaway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's in the first
seen
one
it in a long time.
And she like sings a song in the Princess Diaries, and it's
snooty.
Yeah, it's snooty, but I was like, wait, she's cool.
And of course, like, I have to say, she This Is Us is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think she just shocked people.
Sure.
Because, for people who don't know the show, it spans over multiple decades.
Yes.
And so you see her character as a young adult all the way to being
elderly.
Very elderly.
Yeah.
And she did such a phenomenal job. There was like a whole thing around like justice for Mandy that she never... There were a lot of Emmys won by that show, and she didn't win one. And I was like, this is a crime.
Sure.
Yeah.
Give this queen her flowers.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm kind of digging. I'm going to watch A Walk to Remember.
Me too.
Okay.
All right, what you got for us this week?
Okay, so this week I have Be Careful With Yourself by Julia Jacklin. She is an Aussie artist. She hails from New South Wales. Well, I'm just from Wales, not the New South part. Musical style, I would say, is like indie pop, folk. You know me, I love like a pop girl. I saw her in Basement East with my friend in 2022.
Oh,
cool. Just like very cutie and like demure. I really want to get more into her discography. This song is from her album that came out in 2022, Pre-Pleasure. So good. Just kind of nostalgic. I was listening to it this morning. It just reminds me of this. I just like imprinted it with this time of year being in school. So there's some like nostalgia around it. But I really like her. I think she's like vibey and kind of like cool girl-esque. Okay. So I think you'll like her.
Sweet. Never heard of her, so I'm excited to listen. I loved it.
Right?
Yes.
Just like vibey.
Yeah, I'm
but like has heart.
Right. And it's almost like that like Maggie Rogers style where it is like really flowy, but also it's hard to describe vibey as like the best I can do. Right?
It's always that like folky, it's always that like indie, then like new indie vibes, I think.
Also, I appreciated there was a line in the first verse that was a little like Romeo and Juliet, like you better stop smoking or if not I'm gonna start. Because I gotta shorten my life because we gotta be together. But I appreciate the message. Take care of yourself. Like please go the speed limit. Please like put some savings in that bank account. Like I plan on being around together in this world a long time. Let's like make it happen.
That's literally like whenever I'm having a symptom of my middle 20s, I'm like, I listen to this song because I'm like, girl, give a shit about yourself.
Give a shit.
Like, I like show up. No one's gonna come save us.
Okay. I'm here for it.
Welcome to the segment, Wait, What? Where I fill Val in on all of the internet vernacular and lore so that she doesn't end up being an irrelevant elder millennial.
So, what do you want to know today, Coral?
You use this term sometimes, and like, I think I get it, but I want to get it better. Where you're like, we're just having a little kiki. A little kiki. I'm like, okay, party, little hang time. What is it?
I guess definition-wise, and I did check on Urban Dictionary because I don't play that shit. But what I always knew in reference of kiki was it's a little gathering with people that you enjoy and you're going to spill tea. Like, that's a component. Like, you are going to gossip. But a kiki is just kind of like, it's just like a little party. It's a little hang. So I always love, like, what we're doing right now, kiki. What we did with Jessica, kiki. What we do at Breakfast Club, big, but a kiki. So I always, you can like use it in that way. And one of the things I love from Urban Dictionary, I guess, which makes sense, it says it stems from like ballroom culture, which I'm kind of like, I'm interested in the like subtype, obviously like LGBT component. But I was listening to Let's Have a Kiki by the Scissor Sisters. And I left my phone, but it literally is like a kiki is a party to help like calm your nerves. So it's just like a hang with the girlies. So we're going to have a kiki. Or I like to say, like, I'm going to the beach with my best friend. So we were texting and I'm like, we're going to have a keek.
A keek. Okay.
Like it's kind of like to come.
Yes, an evolution.
A keek is to come. So enjoy your kiki and look forward to your keeks.
Okay. Thank you so much for educating me.
And now for our last segment of the show, welcome to Fire Dumpster Phoenix. It is rough out there, y'all, and we need all the hope we can get. It's time to go dumpster diving for some positive news and rise from the leftover Happy Meal ashes together.
I learned about 2 cats. Well, one of them has passed, Ming passed, but now the torch has been passed to Conan.
Ooh.
These cats that are hired to motivate security guards in the Philippines. I heard about this. Got to give credit to Jen, who is at That Good News Girl on Instagram. So there's the security team in the capital city, Manila, the Worldwide Corporate Center.
Okay.
And they just had discovered this cat wandering around, Ming. They gave her, I can't remember, a security vest.
Okay.
And she just helped out. You know, she was just on the job.
Sure.
Making sure that everything was secure. And when Ming sadly passed, they were like, well, we still need a security cat. So Conan, you're hired. So they're both just these cute orange cats.
Of course, they're orange.
I know. So I had to share these quotes from the article that would be linked in the show notes. I forgot who the article is from, but it'll be in the show notes. And it says, this is a quote from a worker in the building. If Conan isn't around, then I'm not motivated. 30-year-old security guard Aljon Aquino said. He takes away my stress. Photos of Conan wearing his vest emblazoned with security and lying on a desk next to a life-size cardboard picture of Ming have been shared thousands of times on Facebook. So Conan is now one of more than a dozen strays living in this commercial and corporate building where they are allowed to just roam and employees pitch in to buy their food. And I'm just like, can we normalize cats roaming around office buildings? And then I'm like, I know there's so many allergies, which is such a bummer, but I'm imagining some future utopia where there are no cat allergies.
I agree with that.
And they're just free to roam.
I think, like, could you imagine going grocery shopping and, like,
there's this cat
there's a little cat just there, like,
here to help.
Yeah, like, I always love, like a dispensary cat. I'm like, this is your home.
I know.
Like, hey.
I love when, you just, like, go into, like, a random bookstore or whatever, and they're just like, this is just the shop cat.
But, like, they just live here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, actually, they do. Like, thank you so much for letting me into your home, actually.
Yes.
Cats. Okay, I put, and like, this is worldwide news, so everybody probably knows, but just wanted to celebrate. Thailand becomes the first Southeastern Asian country to legalize marriage equality. Woo! I'm so excited. I got the huge privilege of going to Thailand, like, oh my God, probably 15 years ago when we were still living in Shanghai. And it was beautiful. And just, so it takes effect in 120 days. An activist quoted in the article said they're planning on hosting a mass wedding for LGBTQIA plus couples in Bangkok. The first day that folks can get married, which will be on January 22nd. So I already just can't wait to see, like, the pictures and everything to come. Of course, couples will receive the same rights as hetero couples, such as pursuing adoption, receiving inheritance. Even the thing that I wanted to mention here, like, they put, even though LGBTQIA plus individuals have felt more affirmed in Thailand in comparison to surrounding countries, of course, this is just a huge step for LGBT folks and their rights. So shout out Thailand. Really excited to see all of the beautiful ceremonies to come from this. And baby, every day is Pride.
And hopefully other Southeast Asian countries follow in their footsteps.
Yes. Take notes, girls.
That's right.
Love ya.
All right. That's all we got for you guys today.
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. We love y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks
we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of But For Real, produced by Valerie Martin and Emerson Ryder and edited by Sean Conklin.
But For Real is a Gaia Center production. The Gaia Center offers individual, couples, and group therapy for clients across Tennessee and in person in our Nashville office, as well as coaching for clients worldwide. For show notes or to learn more about our work, visit GaiaCenter.co or find us on Instagram at the Gaia Center and at But For Real Pod.
But For Real is intended for education and entertainment and is not a substitute for mental health treatment.
Also, since we host this podcast primarily as humans rather than clinicians, we are not shy here about sharing our opinions on everything from snacks and movies to politicians and social issues.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode.
See you next time, bestie.